Now, before we get on to the video, I just want to plug something really quick. Just for future live streaming Neo events, I have a question to ask for anybody who's out there. I'm at a crossroads point. Well, it's not really a crossroads point. It's like three separate directions. So does it make it a crossroads point? I don't know. But I'm torn between continuing Ustreams or switching over to either Blog TV or Justin TV. Like, I've heard pretty good things on all three of them, you know. I have heard some complaints about Ustream and some of the lag that happens and such. I don't know basically what's the best because I haven't used all three of them. Like, you know, not at once, but, you know, I've mostly stuck to Ustream. So if there's anybody out there who has either used all three or knows them really well, tell me which one I should continue doing and the one that I think would be more preferable. I don't know, I mean, I want you guys to get the best experience possible, so, yeah. Anyway, so, hey guys, what's going on? NGS back again for another video on the glory of glory that is summer vacation, you know. Man, I forgot how much I love this time. I mean, seriously, like, this summer I plan to do so much more shit than I ever did because, you know, life starts, college in the fall, not in the fall, like August. And you know, the real world's gonna happen, you know, responsibilities take a toll and such, so I gotta get the most out of here. Gotta probably play more video games, watch more movies, and of course chill, hang out with all my friends, you know, the guys who I'm not gonna be seeing for a good couple while before they come back from the college break, you know, just relationships you gotta continue with your friends, you know. I know I'm gonna meet a bunch of cool guys and girls in college, but it's like, I don't want to forget the guys who I grew up with, you know, who basically know me more than probably my entire family knows. You know, it's just when you know people like that, you know, it's like those are the people you can really depend on. You know, if ever something's ever happened to you, you know they'll have your back. Damn, I'm getting emotional. Shit, we gotta change it up for a pace. All right. Something that'll make you angry, aggressive. What? Microsoft. Alright, anyway, so today, after this long-ass intro, what I wanted to talk about was, I believe it's called Operation Rainfall, or Project Rainfall, I believe. Mostly anybody who is aware in the video gaming world probably has heard about this. It's a movement by gamers that just surfaced on the internet, I believe, a week ago, and what its main goal is, more or less, to get the attention of Nintendo and basically an online campaign and petition for them to localize certain video games onto Nintendo platforms. You know, there are a lot of games ranging, this goes far back than I can even count, sometimes 10, 20 years ago, to the beginning of gaming. You know, localization is what essentially the problem is. They want Nintendo to localize games, you know, but for some reason Nintendo doesn't want to do it. So before we go on, I think it's best to talk about localization for some people who don't know what it is and basically give the whole shebang on it. Alright, so localization is the act of bringing something from one country to another. You know, if I wanted to put it for most of you guys are involved in anime, in some cases they would localize certain anime video games over here, and sometimes they would localize an anime, they would bring it outside of its country origin and, you know, to other places and states. That's essentially in a nutshell. You know, while localization is great, there are also some problems with it. There are some licensing, copyright concerns, you know, and market. Market is also key involved in localization because the way you look at a market, the way it's segmented, you can tell a lot about what things that market enjoys. Like if you come over here and you look at the North American gaming market, what is the top thing that sells more than anything else? Genre-wise, first-person shooters, right? Well, this generation anyway. Last generation it was JRPGs, and generation before that it was fighting games, you know? But for this time, the sake of the video, it is first-person shooters. Unless this video is still up like 5 years later in a new generation where something becomes a new hit. But you can tell how people will enjoy a game. Now, the thing is, with localization, it is different from location to location. Something may be the biggest shit in one country of origin, such as One Piece in Japan, so acclaimed, so floored, so loved by the people, but if you bring it over to another country, in this case, North America, it performs subpar. Yeah, that's also a side note for a future video. I'm going to rant on some of the One Piece fans, quote-unquote North American fans. I'm not talking about the guys who support the anime and stuff. I'm talking about the ones who come out with the bullshit excuses on why they won't purchase One Piece and why they won't support it. You know, saying, I'm going to wait to the CP9 arc to buy One Piece, and I hate 13-episode boxes. They need to come out with new ones. Yeah, so Funimation saving One Piece, starting on a handicap, being killed in the mainstream anime audience, you know, not the people on the internet, yeah, you're going to complain about all that shit and you won't support the anime you quote-unquote love, and you want to wait for them to get to episode 300 before you consider purchasing it? You are out of your fucking mind. Now, that's another video for another day. You know, I'm going to rant on them later. But, yeah. So, back to Operation Rainfall. You know, obviously, localization is a problem. You know, sometimes, you know, market affects how they bring the games out. Sometimes they don't want to because they don't think it's going to sell. But in this scenario, there's no problem with it. These games that people have wanted, they are Japanese RPGs. What games are still selling? Japanese RPGs. They may not be selling as lot as they did last generation, but they still, you know, they provide decent sales that they come out with a sequel or a spin-off or a prequel. Square Enix knows that for a fact. You know, the JRPGs, there's still a market for them. You know, people still like playing them. While they are getting redundant, you know, they are getting very linear, 13, they're still fun to play in some cases. So, you know, there's still obviously a market for it. But that can be the reason why Nintendo doesn't want to localize them. You see, Nintendo, it's not that they can't localize it, they don't want to localize it. Okay, and this is the part that really, I don't know if anyone's caught on to this, but this is the part that really irks me. Because Nintendo has come out and even admitted that they have lost the core gamer with the Wii. You know, it wasn't that the Wii didn't have great games. The Wii had a great library. Like last year, see all those freaking games that came out? Games like boom, boom, boom. At least every month we had a great game. You know, it wasn't that they didn't have games. It had the games, but they weren't marketed properly. You know, they weren't shown off, you know, like they were last generation, you know, because everybody by now should know this. Everybody's dealt with this kind of gamer. The jocktard, the mainstream, the person who will never touch any other video game unless it is overly saturated in the market, highly populated. Sorry, I said populated. Call of Duty, Madden. Out of all the people I see, the mainstream gamer is by far the worst because they don't do research on any real games. They go into a GameStop, they look and they say, wow, that shit's popular. They pick it up, they play it. Now, I'm not bashing on you. If you like just sitting around and playing mainstream games like Call of Duty and Madden, you know, if you like doing that, that is fine. But for the sake of this video, I gotta call these guys out because there are too many of these people doing this on the Wii. They don't look for the games, and it really isn't that hard. You go online, go on Google, type in forum. Hey, you guys know any good Wii games? And you get lists and lists. Wii gamers are happy to show you games because it has games. It's just that casual gaming overran it. You know, it's just that was put into the spotlight more than the core games were. And Nintendo even admitted that. You know, so what do they want to do? If they want to build up their image, well, they're coming out with the Wii U. That's their answer to it. I mean, they're going back to joypad gaming. They're not doing, well, it is innovation, you know, the touchscreen. They're not doing motion controls. They are, but it's not like, you know, it's not like that. You know, they obviously went back to that because they want to get their core gamers back as well as appeal to the casuals. And that's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that. But it really makes you wonder. You know, they've said that they lost the core market. So wouldn't logically the best idea to build up the market on their system be to localize these critically acclaimed games from Japan? Doesn't that kind of make sense? You know, you want to bring in the quote-unquote hardcore gamers and you want to give them games, but you won't localize these 3 critically acclaimed games that I haven't played any of them, but from I heard, Famitsu's giving them perfect scores all across the board. And they say they are some of the best games this generation. With all that praise, you know, you don't want to bring it over? Are you kidding me, Nintendo? Like, are you serial? Do we have to bring in Al Gore? Are you serial? Are you really that super serial? My goodness. And it logically, from a marketing standpoint, this makes complete sense because the games will be marketed. We've established that JRPGs still have a market. You know, they can still sell pretty decent. You know, they can still sell them, and especially that these are innovative JRPGs. I believe all of them are. I'm not sure about Pandora's Tower. But they're all, you know, marketable. There's something unique, something new. you know, to some extent, they'll sell well. So marketing-wise and sales-wise, we've got that down. And it's also good for their PR, you know, their public relations, their image, you know. They said they don't want to be just casual. They want to bring in the core. So why don't you bring these games that will make you look better, Nintendo? You keep saying on and on that we're not just casual, which this is funny. This is funny. Out of all the things that take the cake for hilarity of what a company has done, man, this ranks up there with Microsoft. I mean, seriously. Nintendo, a couple days ago on their Facebook page, they recently posted, you know, trailers and news about upcoming games, be it the 3DS or the Wii or the original DS and such. And there was a post for a new trailer or whatever, I don't really remember much, for Mario and Sonic at the London Olympic Games. Like, check it out, you guys. And the funniest thing was that 90% of the comments generally said this: what the fuck is this shit? Where's my last story localization? Look, really, Nintendo, you'll spend the time and the effort to market the hell out of a poorly done Mario Sonic crossover that is obviously not what it should have been. It's resorted to this. And you wonder why people say you have lost the gamers. You wonder. It's because you bring out shit like this. You promote shit like this. And we all know Sony and Microsoft have done that before. Like, you know, they promote shit that really we don't give a fuck about. But with Nintendo, they're doing it too much. We don't care about that. You say you want to bring the core gamers, then what the heck are you doing? Man, there's a time and a place for everything. All you're getting out of Mario and Sonic is sales. With localizing these games, you're getting 3 out of 3. You're getting sales, you're getting games, and you're getting a good image, Nintendo. Why? This is just like Microsoft. Why would they do something good for you? My God. Man, I didn't even think I'd get this pissed off. I don't know if I'm pissed off or I'm just funny sounding pissed off, but you guys are really bullshitting. I call bullshitting. Kyle Broflovski, where the hell are you, man? I call bullshitting. Jesus Christ. I mean, localization is always a problem. You know, there are just some factors that we obviously can't control, like the market segment, market saturation, you know, copyright and such. But in this case, there's none of that. As far as my knowledge is concerned, there's nothing like that. Simple reason why Nintendo doesn't want to do this. You see, and Nintendo, that's where people really, like I said, you're losing the gamer's eye. If you care more about a freaking crossover casual game than, you know, critically acclaimed games. Yeah, you know, the thing that people like to play, just a thought, you know, just saying. Yeah. So Nintendo's really missing a great opportunity in localizing these games. It's just nothing but win for them. It really is. Like, you talk to anybody, man, if Microsoft did something like this, I'd be just like, hot damn, Microsoft, like, good for you. Good for you, which obviously they won't, because when does Microsoft ever care about us? You know, the consumers. And if Sony ever did something like that, it'd be good job. I mean, this is where I think third parties, publishers, should step up and if they can, possibly try and localize these games, because Nintendo obviously doesn't want to bring it into North America. But another funny thing is it's coming to Europe, which, you know, really goes to show that, you know, Europe is more open-minded about having games. You know, obviously for anime, Europe is more open-minded. I mean, look how big Sailor Moon is in Italy. Look how big one freaking Piece is over in Germany. Anime's getting pretty big over there, you know, because they're more open to stuff than over here in the mainstream. The mainstream audience in North America, just the United States personally, is so fucked up. I'm not talking about the games, I'm just talking about in general, people enjoy. Like, the general stasis, it's like, I don't buy any other game unless it's Call of Duty? What? You know, whatever. So, Atlas, please come over. If it wasn't for you, I would have never had so much fun yelling at a game for its difficulty. If you can. I mean, NIS is doing it for Bleach Soul Resurrection. I mean, they're doing good shit for gamers. Nintendo doesn't want to do that. So I don't care, all you Nintendo fanboys out there. I love the Wii. I love Nintendo. But you gotta call bullshitting on this. There is no reason they shouldn't localize these games. It's good for them. It builds up their market. It builds up their fanbase. It builds up their image. Watch, listen. You bring out Pandora's Tower, right? It does good, you know, and then they come out with the Wii U. They see the Wii U, they're like, hey, a sequel to Pandora's Tower. That was a really great Wii game. I'll go fork out $300 for a Wii U. Anyway, you guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm NGS signing out, and I will catch you guys later.